I just want to welcome everyone here today. In addition to being the board chair, I am the founder of the organization Return to Zero Center for Healing, which came from the movie Return to Zero. So the mission of my center is to transform the culture of perinatal loss through bereaved parents and health providers. I want to educate, support, and advocate for this group of people. So I myself had a stillbirth, and my passion is really, and with 2020 Mom, why I'm involved is I really want to make sure that the parents who have experienced a pregnancy loss or an infant death, that they are represented in this group, that people know that it's a risk factor. Experiencing loss is a risk factor for having maternal mental health issues in subsequent pregnancies as well. So that's kind of my story. I'm just really honored to be part of 2020 Mom right now during this time in life, I guess. It's really exciting, I feel. I feel that there's a lot of momentum and energy surrounding this movement. And, it's fueled by passion, by survivors, by healthcare providers. There's dedication to volunteering and working for this cause. And there's also collaboration. Like, we're not going to get anywhere without collaborating. And so I've just, even with the last 2.5 years that I've been with 2020 Mom, I've seen so many more collaborations happening, people coming together, and really as we join together as a community, we can really make a big impact. And then also just acknowledging that in California, 1 in 8 births happen here. So if we can move the needle here and have an impact, we can impact the rest of the nation as well. We can make legislation, policy decisions here. People will look to us as a guide. And then most importantly, we do this because we want to help women and their families going through mental health struggles during pregnancy, after pregnancy. And that's most of all why we're here. We don't want people to suffer. We don't want families to suffer. And we can make a difference. So thank you so much for coming and for your support. And I would like to introduce Aviril Sepulveda, who's our form chair. She's on the board. She serves as secretary. And she's just done an amazing job with this year. Thank you so much for your dedication. And you go way above and beyond, so thank you.
My name is Aviril Sepulveda, and I am a pediatric occupational therapist at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I started with 2020 Mom as a volunteer, and then I've been on the board now for 3 years. I recognize the struggles of mothers of the babies I see in the clinic, especially the mothers of babies born preterm and with the medical condition. It became apparent to me that helping the babies with their development and feeding difficulties cannot be accomplished without addressing the mother's mental health needs. After all, the babies don't walk into the clinic by themselves. The silos in the healthcare system drove me to join 2020 Mom so that I can contribute towards closing the gaps in maternal mental health care. I am honored to be the chair of this year's forum. 9 years ago, 2020 Mom started the Emerging Considerations in Maternal Mental Health Care under the vision and the leadership of Joy Burkhart. The forum was formed to convene stakeholders, researchers, thought leaders, advocates, clinicians to examine and discuss the emerging topics related to maternal mental health. This year, I am pleased to welcome Dr. Catherine Wisner, who is gracing us with her presence to talk about the latest research in maternal mental health, including bipolar disorders and psychosis. We are saddened that Dr. Roseanne Clark could not make it today. We are thankful for Dr. Chandra Ghosh Ipin and Dr. Jonathan Goldfinger, for stepping in to engage us in a conversation about infant mental health. We are also grateful to have Michelle Levander, who will be moderating a panel of speakers and breaking down the information heard today, and then using their expertise to put all the pieces together. We would like to thank our sponsors, Sage Therapeutics and Cigna, our partners, 0 to 3, and the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Thank you, Strategies, for continuing to be an incredible partner for this event. Lastly, I would like to express my gratitude to the Planning Committee. I hope you enjoy what we have in store for you today. And here's Joy Burkhardt, our founder and executive director, who will be introducing our sponsors.
Well, good morning, everyone. I wanted to quickly give one more shout out and thank you to Apple and Kiley, but also welcome our ambassadors, our 2020 Mom Ambassadors. You'll hear a little bit more about that program later today. Those of you that have earned your badges as ambassadors, can you give us a wave? We've got a few here. Yes, thank you so much. So boots on the ground in the community. Well, it's my pleasure now to invite two guests up to the stage. Millie and Ed, if you're wanting to join us, we're going to thank Cigna, our first sponsor, together. And I'm pleased to have Millie and Ed join us. You may remember, if you were with us last year, hearing about the tragic loss of Charlene and Shane Ventimiglia. Ken, the husband of Charlene, was with us to tell his story. And today we're here with Millie and Ed, Charlene's parents and grandson, or grandparents of their grandson, Shane. I'd like to now invite one of our sponsors up to the stage as well. This is Vicki Clements, the COO of Cigna Healthcare here in the Southern California market. And we wanted to take a moment to give Cigna an opportunity to make remarks as a sponsor, but also wanted to bring Ed and Millie to the stage, as Cigna's contribution not only funds our work every year, thank you, Cigna, from the very beginning, but also has funded the Charlene and Shane Ventimiglia Memorial Scholarship Fund. And we also have a few scholarship attendees with us today. If you are here on a scholarship, and we know several folks are watching online as well on a scholarship, would you please raise your hand just to say thank you to Cigna? Thank you so much. We're so glad that you're here. Vicki, would love for you to come on up.
All right. Thank you, Joy. Good morning, everyone. Cigna is very proud to be a sponsor of the 2020 Mom event today. It's an ongoing commitment that we've made, and Joy's been very instrumental in that, and we appreciate all the work that she does every day for this important initiative. We know it's important to build healthy communities in California and throughout the country. We can't have healthy communities without healthy moms. We do it all the time, don't we? We carry the torch for our families. So it's really important that our moms are very healthy so they can raise healthy children. During pregnancy and following birth, there's no health without maternal mental health, which is why the work of 2020 Mom is so vital. Moms need and deserve proper mental health and screening access to quality providers. They need to be healthy to raise healthy children. This has become very dear to me in the last 10 days. My daughter just delivered our first grandchild. Pictures later. And I'm very grateful because I live in close proximity, so I'm part of her support system, which is so important to new mothers. We need to be, as a community, helping our mothers through the process of a pregnancy, but also afterwards. We all know those sleepless nights can add up. So I think this initiative also addresses the community support that we all want to provide to our friends, neighbors, and daughters. I'm especially pleased that Cigna's financial support has funded the scholarships today. I know many of you raised your hands, and we're very proud of that. And through the event of Charlene and Shane Ventimiglia Memorial Fund. If you're If you're a scholarship participant, thank you so much for being here today. We greatly appreciate your presence. I'm also delighted to recognize a couple of Cigna's special guests. We have Hogue here in the audience and UCLA Medical Center. So thank you so much for being here. All right, thank you for everything today, and let's have a great day. A lot of dialogue going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki. All right, now we'd also like to invite our second sponsor up to the stage. Sage Therapeutics has come onto the scene in the last couple years and is developing a solution that we believe will really be able to help moms in need. And I'm pleased to recognize and ask Marjorie Stewart-Hart to come up to the stage. Marjorie is the head of patient advocacy for Sage Therapeutics. And again, we thank you for sponsorship of this event and another one that you often sponsor for us as well. So thank you so much for your contributions. We can't do it without you. Come on up. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I am Marjorie Stewart-Hart, head of patient advocacy at Sage. And in a nutshell, my role at Sage is really to champion the voices of those touched by PPD into Sage so that we can continuously infuse their perspectives into the amazing work that we're doing on a daily basis. Through their expertise, their passion, and their stories, we are actually really able to start to raise awareness in the community, to fill some of the gaps in education about postpartum depression, to actually make an impact on the standards of care, and also start to strive to have access to all treatments that are going to be made available eventually. This is truly a transformational time for PPD patients and families. As Joy mentioned, as hopefully most of you know or will by the end of today, Sage is developing a potential treatment for PPD, and of course we're incredibly excited about that. And more importantly, we are profoundly grateful to the women who volunteered for the clinical trials to make it a possibility. In the few weeks that I've been working at Sage, I've been really focused on just listening and learning, and I have been incredibly humbled by the people who are complete strangers to me, who have been willing to share with me their personal, painful, and inspirational stories. One message that has been really, really clear and come through with everyone that I have spoken with is that we must demand that moms are screened, diagnosed, and treated with urgency for the sake of mom, baby, and family. And I know that, thank you. And the community has challenged Sage to be a champion of this cause, and we bravely and proudly embrace that cause. One of the things I'm personally most energized by is because we are a biopharmaceutical company, we have a unique opportunity to actually raise more awareness to this issue than maybe that we've been able to raise in the past. And we're very proud to be able to serve in that capacity. And we are very committed to advocating for moms to get the care that they absolutely deserve. We really applaud the work that Joy and her 2020 Mom team are doing. We are very, very proud to stand with you. Before I go, I want to introduce to you some of my colleagues that are here. So Lily and Shabi, if you will raise your hands. These are some of our amazing team of medical science liaisons, and they are here if you want to seek them out during the day. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the work we're doing, about the trial, they'll be happy to answer as many questions as they can. So thank you again, Joy and 2020 Mom, for the opportunity to be here. I'm really looking forward today to continue on my journey of learning, and I'm looking forward to what you're able to share with us today, and have a great meeting. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Kat Kayani to join me on stage, one of our committee members who's going to introduce our first speaker today.
Hi, good morning, everybody here and in webinar land. Nice to have you here. My full name is Katayun Kayani, which is why I go by Dr. Kat. I'm a psychologist in perinatal mental health, and I am a specialist because of my own experience going through postpartum depression, anxiety, and OCD. And so now I proudly help and support moms who are also going through that. I'm a volunteer co-coordinator for San Bernardino County Postpartum Support International, and I am the host of the Mom in Mind podcast, which is all about perinatal mental health. I'm really happy today to be here and to be working with 2020 Mom. One of the things that I love about this organization is the really broad vision, getting systems change in place, and bringing people together for really strong advocacy in perinatal mental health. And 2020 Mom has learned over time and through their experiences that it's really important to start these events with a story, with someone who has gone through their own lived experience of some of the things we'll be going over today. And Diane Harwood has that lived experience. She is going to be sharing her story with us today. She couldn't join us in person, so we do have her on video, and we'll be watching her shortly. Diane has written a book about her experience called Birth of a New Brain, Healing from Postpartum Bipolar Disorder. One of the things I really love about Diane is her tenacity to make sure that this particular cause is addressed in perinatal mental health and being a voice for women who are voiceless, specifically dealing with bipolar disorder. And she's become an amazing advocate as well. And so now we'll get to hear from Diane.
I grew up with bipolar disorder literally at arm's length. My father, a Los Angeles Philharmonic violinist, was diagnosed with bipolar disorder as a young man. From the very beginning, Dad and I were very close. My mother showered love upon me too. She loved my father deeply, but their relationship was fraught by his mental illness throughout their 40-year marriage. My childhood was filled with the fear that comes from growing up in the midst of parental domestic violence, and my father's alcoholism was his attempt to self-medicate his bipolar disorder. I moved from Los Angeles to attend UC Santa Cruz, and I graduated with an English degree, intending to become an English teacher. But teaching didn't feel right. I wanted to be a writer. In my 20s, I had situational depressions in which I was bedridden for days at a time, unable to eat or find joy in anything that had previously made me happy. These depressions were triggered by the death of my grandmother and the demise of a long-term relationship. But no one suspected they were bipolar depressions. I experienced one bout of hypomania that was triggered by sleep deprivation from working at a music festival. But my symptoms, such as a decreased need for sleep and excessive energy, subsided very quickly within a couple days. No one thought they were signs of an underlying bipolar disorder. My husband Craig and I were married in 2001. We knew we wanted to have children. At 8 months pregnant with my first baby, Aviril, I felt healthy. My dad was over the moon about becoming a grandfather. But at my prenatal checkups, I wasn't asked to provide information about my mental health history or my family's mental health history. If those basic questions had been asked of me, they could have made a significant difference in detecting my postpartum mood disorder and ensuring I had proper treatment. Immediately after Aviril was born, I became hypomanic, but not so much that it raised any red flags at the maternity hospital. My symptoms subsided within a couple weeks. I didn't suffer from postpartum depression or any other perinatal mood and anxiety disorder after Aviril's birth. It would be the birth of our second baby, Marilla, that would trigger my bipolar disorder. Right after Marilla was born, I was elated she was healthy. I seemed really happy, and my hospital care team and my husband had no idea I had a mental health crisis in the making. But I did. I didn't breathe a word about my dread, in which I felt like something wasn't right, something was off in my head. My thoughts were going quickly. I just felt weird. And I didn't say anything because I feared I'd be deemed an unfit mother and separated from my children. This is what postpartum hypomania can look like. I wasn't focusing on my baby, I made too many phone calls, and I was constantly online. As a result, Marilla didn't gain enough weight, and while I loved her, we didn't have the bond we could have had. As soon as we returned home from the hospital, I experienced a rare condition called hypergraphia, which is compulsive nonstop writing. I wrote incessantly, and I started to write a book about what was happening to me. And as highly as unusual as hypergraphia is, especially during the postpartum period, I've heard from other mothers who've experienced it too. At almost 6 weeks postpartum, my hypomania had escalated into full-blown mania at my brother's wedding. Marilla was about a pound underweight at the time, which had been baffling her pediatrician. I realized I was getting worse and told Craig. With our baby and toddler in tow, we went to the local psychiatric unit so I could admit myself, probably the most heartbreaking moment of my life. There, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. From 2007 to 2013, I was hospitalized 6 more times. I had treatment-resistant bipolar depression, and I tried over 25 different medications. I asked to have electroconvulsive therapy, also known as ECT, twice for suicidal ideation. The ECT saved my life, and I had minimal side effects, a very small amount of memory loss. My periods of mood stability would come and go, but my dysthymic, also known as chronic depression, and the specter of rehospitalization were always there haunting me. In 2013, I found a psychiatrist who prescribed a medication combination I had never tried before, which finally lifted my bipolar depression. I was able to be the mother I wish I could have been consistently during the previous 7 years. It was a bittersweet time. I completed a book proposal for the book I had begun writing, and last year, my book, Birth of a New Brain, Healing from Postpartum Bipolar Disorder, was published. Clinical psychologist Kay Redfield Jamison, a mental health luminary, wrote the cover quote, "Birth of a New Brain is a gripping account of the awful juxtaposition of childbirth and the onset of bipolar illness. Her book is an informative and important contribution to our understanding of this triggering of mental illness that happens more often than is generally recognized. Through using what I call linchpins for mood stability, such as sleep, medication, my psychiatrist, and my family support, I've been stable for 5 years. I've achieved things I never thought were in my reach, such as speaking to audiences about perinatal mental health. Now I'm doing my best to spread the word about my experience so that more expectant moms will be asked during their prenatal checkups about their mental health history and their family's mental health history. By simply questioning these moms in a comprehensive way, their mood problems could be detected and treated sooner rather than later. If my daughters decide to have children, I want them asked mental health history questions. When you think about it, this type of conversation would only take a few minutes, yet potentially make a profound difference in their lives and the lives of their newborns.
It's a tough one to follow. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Sonia Nikor. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in perinatal and postpartum care. I have a private practice in Pasadena, and I work very closely with a lot of the clinicians in the area. And I want to give a special shout out to the Huntington Hospital Maternal Wellness Program, which is really making great strides in this area. Also, real quickly, I wanted to share with you that you can look up information on social media, hashtag MMH Forum 2018. And you can post as well. Thank you, Joy. So we've been touching a little bit on what brought us to the fold of Mom 2020. And like many of the people here, I had my own encounter with it personally. One, when I had my daughter, who of course then, like Diane, brought up the questions of why? Why would my daughter have to go through something like this? And at that point, I was a clinician. I had been working with women, but certainly having a daughter resonated with me on a personal level about the need for support in this area. And then subsequent to that, when I had my son, I got to walk in the shoes of a lot of the moms I had been working with when my son was rushed to NICU minutes after being born. And despite having every other person in my family who was in the medical field, I was lonely, lost, isolated, and deeply confused and groggy. and struggled with that for a long time. So in addition to my personal journey as a clinician, like many of you here, and certainly as Diane's story has illustrated, I was witnessing again and again that despite taking all the prescribed steps, There were moms who were suddenly finding themselves in their postpartum stages in a very confusing and heartbreaking territory. Nobody had informed them or screened them for perinatal mental health issues. Instead, these moms were finding themselves often blindsided by the onset of the illness, repeatedly misdiagnosed, sent to psych wards, and painfully separated from the infants and their families, the very supportive network they needed to heal. The moms in my practice were echoing the same refrain over and over and over again. Quote, "If only I had known. If only someone had told me to look out for this." Screening and educating families on mental health as part of routine prenatal care is a no-brainer, and yet it wasn't happening. I had been advocating for women's and minorities issues for over 20 years, including serving on President Clinton's task force. So when all of this, my personal and professional journeys intersected, I was looking for a local organization that would be advocating for and championing perinatal mental health issues. And that's where I found joy and Mom 2020. And like many of you here, I attended a conference, I attended some webinars, and that fueled my fire to continue working and supporting this organization. And it's really remarkable how in just such a short time, Joy and her team have touched on so many areas, from education to shifting the dialogue culturally, and certainly the legislative aspect of it.